Hi, I'm Marie Hopkinson, and today we're going to be talking about scents for relaxation. So why don't you join me on this scent journey? Today we're going to be talking about different scents for different things, and I've got some different essential oils and things like that here. So I hope that we can uncover the world of scent together. I hope you can just take a moment now to relax as we kind of delve together into the world of scent and start thinking about what would be the best scents to help you relax. Now I've got a variety of different things here that are used to make scent. The first thing I'm opening up now is the incense. And I think the one thing to consider with relaxation of scents is, what are you going to be doing with it? Do you want to do a meditation or some kind of ritual that will help you relax? That in itself is relaxing itself. So I'm just going to pop this to the side because it's getting a little smoky here. And so this is an incense burning exercise for not just the scent that you smell, but the actual relaxation of it itself. And one of the reasons I've made the loose incense that we make in my company, my shop, is because it allows you to kind of have a flexibility with what you want to do with the incense. So traditionally an incense stick is exactly that. It's a stick. So what is it? It's parts of plants, usually leaves, sometimes resin parts of plants. So you have things like frankincense and myrrh. And those things, what we do is we grind them down. And then in my company, we only use essential oils to add to this. With a base like carrier oil in some of the products, because they need to be moisturized more than the base product. So for instance, if some of them have juniper berry in them, when you grind down juniper berry, it's very moist. It's not super duper dry. And there's some other products that would be very dry, like resins, frankincense or myrrh, for instance. And when I make these, we're using naturally combustible products. So that's what happens. That's why is this able to ignite into a stick? Because, ignite into a stick. Why is it able to ignite into a fire and smoke come out of it? Because those things are combustible. So in itself, when something's burning, you don't want it to be toxic. So you don't know exactly what's going into these sticks. Now, one of the tricks you can use is just the power of your own nose. And if you're a person that burns a lot of incense, you can kind of tell the difference somewhat by what smells toxic or perfumey to you. So if you've ever walked past one of those Indian clothing stores, like Rattan kind of selling stores, they often are burning that very cheap incense, the joss sticks, that kind of stuff, like the Chinese food stores, which often have joss sticks burning and things like that. And those things are sold really commonly for like temple celebrations and remembering the dead and things like that. And like in China, they'll have this massive pile, like a big, like 50 joss sticks in one go that they'll all be burning and doing like that in the temple. And that can be a very overwhelming and overpowering, heady kind of perfumey scent. So you could try to investigate the quality of the incense that you're burning like that. But truly, no one really knows, unless you're making it yourself. No one really knows exactly what's in here because it's just something with incense. And that's one of the reasons why I started to make my own products, because I was thinking, well, I don't know what's in this, so I want to make something where I know what's in it. But there are some very good quality incenses you can buy. And what I've done with my company is, over the years of having my retail shop, I would buy lots of different kinds of incenses in small quantities and then only sell the stuff that I thought was good. So burn it myself, open up the packets and actually smell it. It drives me nutty, no end, to go into a store that's selling incense, say for instance, and there's nothing for you to sample, there's nothing for you to smell. It's all in a sealed plastic container, and it's like, what? You can't smell it? Haven't you got a sample for me to open up and for me to... Like, I understand that some shops are like, they're struggling, but at the same time, they'd probably sell more if they opened it out of the packet and let you smell it. So it kind of breaks my heart to not have that store anymore and now just only have the internet. And so you can't smell it, and you've just got to take my word for it that it's good. But on the other side of the coin is sometimes with incense, even if you could smell it, from the package, like this is amazing because it's got lots of cardamom in it, so it's very aromatic and it's quite strong. Some incenses you just can't smell until you actually burn them, and you won't know. So you can just do the trial and error and don't buy too much of the same thing if you don't know that you like it. So let's talk about today a little bit about incense and scents, essential oil scents, and one of the other products we make, which has got, oh, that one's gotten stuck there because of the video. Essential oils and perfume oils that are in our soy wax melts. So what kind of scents would you use for meditation or for relaxation? So I think it's important to separate the two things of, do you want to fall asleep or do you just want to relax? Because there are some scents that are more likely to help you. They can do both, relax and fall asleep, and some scents that are probably better to relax you, but not necessarily to fall asleep. So the number one scent that we've got the most research on for relaxation and helping anxiety and helping people fall asleep or feel sleepier is lavender. Now, not everyone likes lavender. It's a very strong smell. If you're looking for the actual data and the research based like evidence to support these things, they've done research on people. There's a couple of research studies that, like, there's lots of research on lavender, so if you Google that, you can look it up. But a couple of ones that stick to mind for me was a study that was done where they looked at people that did puzzles. So they gave people cinnamon in one room, nothing in the other room, and lavender in the other room. And they found that the cinnamon people did better on the memory. So these are puzzles that required, memory recall kind of thing. They did better with the cinnamon versus nothing at all, and the lavender did worse than the nothing at all, and obviously worse than the cinnamon group. So what that tells you is, don't use lavender if you want to have your mind sharp and commit things to memory. And so what's the opposite of that is a relaxation effect. And so sometimes if you're having trouble sleeping, I guess, and this is just using that data to kind of infer further knowledge about it. So this is just me ad-libbing on it and thinking about it and using the observational aspect of science to think about it. Sometimes people have trouble sleeping because their mind is racing, and like that aspect of your mind going, if lavender could help you with that, is that how it helps you to fall asleep? So then there's been additional research with lavender and anxiety, and I recently saw a study that was done in 2019 on patients who were going to have a type of heart surgery, and they used rose oil, and that had no effects. They could find no statistical effect, and they did another one where they basically gave the patients for pre-operative anxiety inhaling the scent of rose, and that wasn't effective. And then they did one where another research study had one where they were using lavender, and lavender did have an effect, but not a statistically significant effect. So if you're a researcher, you kind of know what that means. I'll put the link to these things in the below this thing, or I'll put a link to a website page where I'll chuck all those research articles there. And look, there's lots of studies. So lavender is something that's been studied a lot. So that's something just to say at the start. So if you're stressed and you're anxious, or you're also need to fall asleep, I would go for lavender first. Now, how can you utilize these essential oils? So essential oils are what they call neat or pure in its liquid form, that comes like in an essential oil bottle. And we sell these kind of things on our website like this, and this is a blend of essential oils, or you can buy ones that are individual, and you probably have some lavender kind of lying around at home. And the other thing with lavender is there's thousands, well, not thousands, but hundreds of styles of types of lavender, different breeds of plants. And so, you need to look into, if you specifically want a certain type. I'm not an expert on the various types of lavender oil. That is different. There can be some scents that you may prefer the smell of versus different kinds of lavender you might like or dislike more than others. So what you do with the oil, now there's a couple of ways you could use the oil. You could put the oil into your oil burner and let the scent, and that's an aromatherapy method. You can put a few drops of it into the vaporizer things that you have. So there's usually a lid on that. You take it off, and it humidifies the air, pushes water into the air, but also pushes out droplets of the essential oil that you put in there, or the blend of oils that you put in there. You can buy candles with it, and so then we start getting into things where, well, is it really the essential oil in there? Is it a fragrance oil? So what's the difference between an essential oil and a fragrance oil? So a fragrance oil is like a chemical version of it. It's designed for the smell, for the scent factor, versus it doesn't have the properties of the plant. Now, it may have some of the plant in there to get the original smell, but it's also produced by, and these are proprietary methods that are never kind of released about exactly what chemical constitutions are in these different fragrance oils. So fragrance oils are the basis of what perfumes are made out of. And I recently saw, well, not recently, but a couple of years ago, I saw some people getting, in the media and saying, oh, well, companies should have to disclose what's in there because that's where toxins or that's where maybe allergens come in. So I don't know if you've ever had a scenario where you smelled something and it's given you a headache, let's say, and you're like, oh, what's in that? Is it the essential oil that's giving me a headache, or is it some other product or some other aspect, to that product? So I don't want to make this video too much of a rant, but we're talking about relaxation and what ways you could use these things. So particularly for lavender oil, it's something that you can usually rub on your wrist. So you could combine the use of pressure points or acupressure points. So on the temples, now never rub essential oils into any orifices. Like that's just, I'm not saying you should ingest them. That's a whole different aspect of things. And this is just, it should be external use only. If you're not used to using an essential oil, you've never used it before, you're not sure, whether you're allergic to it or something like that, then you could do a little test on this area of your body and just, place a drop of it on there. But the best thing to do is use a carrier oil with it. So what that means is any oil, like jojoba oil is a lovely oil to use. It's quite expensive. But if you just had, let's say, grapeseed oil, or it's a little bit thick, almond oil is often used in massage. So something you're not, like if you're allergic to almonds, don't use almond oil. Use, soybean oil or, olive oil, something you've got, some kind of oil you've got at home. Hopefully not like a chippy oil, like something a bit more quality than that. And just put a small amount in a container or a little bowl and put a couple of drops of the essential oil into it, and that carries it, dilutes it out. So that makes your essential oils last longer, and it dilutes the effectiveness of them. So in cases where you want to make a rub or a balm, or, give someone a massage with the essential oil, that's another thing you could do if you're giving your partner a massage. Lots of people are stuck at home at the moment with the COVID-19 quarantine situation. You could give your partner a nice lavender massage with some massage oil and a few drops of lavender. So that would be my recommendation to start with if you're wanting something to help you sleep. Now be careful if you're going to put oils on before you go to bed in a thing where there's fire, because you can get electric oil burners where you could have a timer and it turns off, but you don't want to start a fire and have fire going unnecessarily. So never leave a naked flame unattended. So the next thing that brings me to is the melts. Now what are melts? This is a product that we make. Other companies make them as well, where they use wax. What we do is we melt the wax down, and then we add the essential oils or the fragrance oils into them. Now with these products, we sometimes use essential oils, sometimes use fragrance oils. If you're not sure and you definitely want essential oils, then please contact us before you purchase them to check which ones have the essential oils in them. There's lots of reasons why I do that. One is for cost, otherwise the cost could be very exorbitant. Some essential oils are really expensive, and it would just price the product out of the market for some people. And secondly, these are not a therapeutic product. They're a product just for making your house smell nice. So it's kind of a waste of the environment to utilize a lot of essential oils, where these things, when they're in that bottle, they could be used for lots of different reasons and uses, and so it's kind of wasting the environment to put those into a scent only, just for your aesthetic scent love. And the quality of the perfume oils, again, we use are very high quality. So they're nice they're nice fragrance oils. They're not that's the best I can say about it. Like, just the quality is that you can have different qualities again of fragrance oils. So you can have, just like when you buy candles, you can have some candles that smell really great, and then you can have some candles where you're like, whoa, this stinks. So What exact scents, apart from lavender, could you use? So the next thing to go to are base notes in the perfume range of scents. So just like when you sing or you hear a song, there's a chord, right? So it goes sort of like the high note, the middle note, the low note. And the low note is what sticks in a perfume. The low note is what kind of sticks into your clothes and is lingering. And generally, you cannot smell the low notes of these scents very easily unless they're burning. So things like frankincense is a really good one. Now, there's also been some research on frankincense for anxiety, and frankincense got so many different uses in lots of different medicines. So it's a big product in Chinese medicine. It's a herbal medicine that's used for blood stagnation. It's been around for thousands of years. Was in use around the biblical times. It was, one of the 3 things that the wise men gave to Jesus: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So it's a precious kind of commodity. Did the wise men give it to Jesus because it was a healing product that could help? Like this is, people, scholars kind of, talk about these things. Why did they give them these things? Because they were expensive. They probably would have, been able to live off of those commodities. Like they would have been able to sell them and, get money to live off of them. But they also were used as wound healing. So after you've given birth, like you've got lots of blood stagnation sometimes, or some kinds of like healing issues, and frankincense is a very useful product in that way. So it's good for your skin. It's lovely for skin healing. Now, you're not going to rub these incense sticks that have got frankincense in them on your skin. That's not what these are for, but the essential oils you can use on the skin, and frankincense usually has to be diluted, and like frankincense can have a good effect or a strong effect on your mind, on like your like calming your mind. So I think that's probably enough to say about that. There's some very interesting research on frankincense for various conditions, so have a look on the internet and see what you can find, because it's very interesting. I used to have customers come into my shop and buy lots of frankincense oil because they were convinced it would be useful in helping certain conditions and stuff like that. Frankincense, myrrh is another one. So that's another one of those wise men incenses. Frankincense and myrrh have similar smells, but frankincense is probably a lot more sweeter in its fragrance. And you can mix those two together, and they're often used in incense. So that's something that I use in my incenses a lot, the frankincense and myrrh. And then because they're combustible, they ignite. I think I have a big piece of myrrh up here somewhere. So I don't know if you can see that, but that is a big chunk of myrrh. And this is, like combustible. So if we snap off a little piece of it, now you definitely need something to put this on, because all of this smoke is from something else. Just put that out. So it's starting to bubble up there, and then it just ignites. We can get it to properly ignite right there. There we go. So you can see that it's on fire. Then we'll just blow it out. It's got a very strong smell, so I wouldn't get too close to it. But in a ritual type of thing, you can buy, a small amount of frankincense like this and just burn that. Oh, sorry, myrrh. That's myrrh. So lovely. Yeah, so that's the frankincense and the myrrh. And they are often in incenses, particularly in these kind of Himalayan, Nepalese, excuse me, particularly in these kind of Himalayan or Nepalese kind of incenses, then you've got frankincense usually, or myrrh in those things. So let's talk about some other kind of scents that are in incense that can be used for relaxation. Juniper is a really common one that I like, and juniper's a bit more activating your mental acuity, I think, a little bit more alert of a fragrance rather than just purely meditating. So Often with scents, because maybe people get bored or you want to combine things out a little bit. So if you don't want to fall asleep but you just want to relax, juniper you could combine with those scents as well. So sometimes you want to get your work done, but you need to relax. You're very stressed. And so in those cases, as long as you stay away from lavender, you can generally use these sedative, heavier scents or base note scents and combine them with some of the middle notes or even a top note scent to make something. So like for instance, we have this meditation oil blend that we make. Now, this is a very popular blend. Everyone that I used to sell out of this in the shop all the time, and I just recently made some more up of it because I had some friends that tried it and they were like, oh wow, we want to get that. So what did I put in this? I put frankincense and myrrh with nag champa and pink grapefruit. So nag champa is another one we want to talk about. Now that one is, this is a fragrance oil blend of nag champa, and nag champa is a type of sandalwood, so that's another one we want to talk about. And nag champa is the main scent that you smell in that kind of like Indian, Middle Eastern kind of perfumey kind of incenses, but it's a very rough type of nag champa. It's not the, you know, like once you smell this, you're like, wow, it's really, there's a massive difference there. So that's a good one for meditating. Now, why did I put pink grapefruit in a meditation oil? Because if you have too much heaviness, it kind of stagnates. It's not for sleeping, but you put a little bit of a citrus fragrance in with that, and it kind of just, you got that sedating, heavy, and that lifting. So the way I think about scents and creating those perfect scent blends is often how I think about, like, when you think about music, because they're notes, you can think about it in the same way. So if you just have a song and you're like, oh, fuck, I love that bass, you don't just have all bass, otherwise it'll drive you crazy. Like, it's a good bass line is great, but you don't have all bass all the time. Otherwise, you can't really enjoy the bass when it's only bass. So think about that with your scents. You want to have a mixture of different things. And it's the same as like high notes. You don't want high notes all the time. Like, the high note is like the accent or the crescendo of the song or the special part, something like that. And in the same way, if you just make a mixture where it's all high notes, it's way too overpowering. It's too heady and too crazy. So this is kind of like a series that I'm going to be doing about talking about scents, how I create them, how you can make stuff at home for yourself. And yeah, so how you can utilize things that you've already got at home maybe. And especially if you're into incense, you might have a whole drawer full of incense and you just think, wow, I haven't used that for a while. I'm not sure how to use that or what that one's good for. So hopefully this has been useful and interesting to you, and you've kind of learned a little bit about some of the scents that you can use. So for relaxation, let's just cap that off. So you've got lavender oil. That's probably your number one if you want to fall asleep as well. And then sandalwood, nag champa, frankincense, myrrh. And they're some of the main ones. There's lots of other oils that you can use for relaxation, and this isn't an exhaustive list, but these are the common ones that are in lots of incense and essential oil blends and things like that. So hopefully I'll see you again on the next video soon, and have a great day.